Jake had always been the kind of person who wore his heart on his sleeve. His relationship with Sarah blossomed over 3 years, filled with laughter and shared dreams. To outsiders, they were the perfect couple, deeply in love and looking forward to a bright future together. Time passed. A shadow began to creep into their seemingly idyllic life. Crisp evening, Sarah announced she was pregnant. Jake's heart soared at the news. He felt an overwhelming mix of joy and anxiety wash over him. Becoming a father was both exhilarating and terrifying. But soon after the initial excitement faded, Jake noticed subtle changes in Sarah's demeanor. Initially, it started with small demands. She wanted more of his attention, insisting they spend every waking moment together as they prepared for this new chapter in their lives. Then came bigger requests. She suggested they buy a house to create a stable environment for their child. With every passing day, Jake found himself increasingly tangled in her web of control. Emily, Jake's sister, watched this transformation with growing concern. How much Sarah was changing him, the carefree brother, she knew seemed to be slipping away beneath layers of obligation and worry. During one family dinner at Emily's house, she finally voiced her concerns to Jake. "Are you sure about all this?" Emily asked gently but firmly. "I mean, have you thought about what this means? You seem different." Jake brushed it off as paranoia after all. He loved Sarah deeply and believed in supporting her through these life changes. Yet even as he dismissed Emily's worries, something gnawed him, a quiet voice that whispered that perhaps not everything was right. As weeks turned into months, the atmosphere shifted further still. Sarah's demands escalated. She insisted he cut ties with friends and family to focus entirely on their new family. Each ultimatum chipped away at Jake's spirit until he felt isolated from those who cared most about him. In quieter moments alone, or when speaking with Mark, his loyal best friend, Jake would feel the weight of doubt creeping back in. Deep down, he sensed something was off with Sarah's pregnancy claims. Those joyful announcements were beginning to feel like shackles binding him tighter. Life became an emotional roller coaster, where joy transformed into confusion and anxiety lingered like an unwelcome guest at their table. Every detail about her pregnancy fueled questions rather than comfort. Her due date seemed inconsistent, her stories lacked coherence. All became too much when Emily confronted Jake again during another dinner. A casual gathering meant for laughter quickly turned serious as she pressed him further about his relationship with Sarah. Was everything truly all right? Why did things seem so strained? That night lingered heavily in Jake's mind long after leaving Emily's home. A seed of doubt planted deep within him began sprouting roots as uncertainty consumed his thoughts. In his room later that evening, staring at the ceiling blankly while shadows danced across walls illuminated only by moonlight filtering through drawn curtains, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't adding up. He decided it was time to take action. Before spiraling any deeper into despair, if nothing else could ease his troubled mind, perhaps understanding might provide clarity amidst chaos. Jake sat at the dinner table in his sister Emily's cozy home, a warm glow from the candles dancing around them. Sarah had been unusually animated that night, sharing stories about her pregnancy with wild enthusiasm. "You know, I can feel the baby kicking already. It's incredible," she exclaimed, placing a hand on her belly as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Jake smiled nervously, but noticed a flicker of doubt in Emily's eyes. "That sounds amazing, Sarah. How far along are you again?" Emily asked casually but with a hint of skepticism. "Oh, just over 3 months," Sarah replied confidently. Emily exchanged glances with Jake before subtly raising an eyebrow. "But I thought your due date was supposed to be, when was it again? The end of February." Sarah hesitated for a split second. "Yeah, things can change. You know how these things go," she said dismissively, brushing off any concern. Jake felt a knot forming in his stomach as he observed Sarah closely throughout dinner. Her claims seemed increasingly exaggerated. She talked about cravings that changed by the hour and wild mood swings that didn't align with what he had read online. The more they conversed about pregnancy and parenting, the more Jake began to feel something wasn't right. Later that night, once they were back home, Jake couldn't shake off the unease Emily's questions had stirred within him. At his desk, while Sarah browsed through her phone on the couch nearby, he started typing into Google, "signs of fake pregnancy." Articles unfolded before him detailing emotional manipulation and deceitful behaviors tied to fabricated pregnancies. Chills raced down his spine. With each passing moment filled with uncertainty and rising suspicion about Sarah's intentions, Jake knew he needed clarity and understanding buried beneath layers of denial and trust he'd extended toward her without question. A following week brought new resolve as Jake decided to confide in Mark, his closest friend who had always been supportive yet straightforward with him. Coffee at their favorite cafe one afternoon, Jake finally laid bare his concerns and suspicions regarding Sarah's behavior. "I think she might be lying about being pregnant," he confessed quietly while glancing around nervously to ensure no one overheard them. Ark frowned thoughtfully for a moment before responding earnestly. "What makes you say that?" Jake recounted everything: the inconsistencies he noticed during dinner at Emily's house, the unusual severity of Sarah's supposed symptoms coupled with her controlling tendencies, all heightened by a growing sense dread building inside him each day spent under her influence. "That sounds serious," Mark replied after taking it all in. "I should dig deeper into this." They concocted a plan. Ark would reach out to some of Sarah's friends from high school to gather information while Jake continued observing her behavior closely, searching for any sign or slip-up, indicating deception lurking behind those innocent smiles. Days later came an unexpected text message from an unknown number that sent shivers through him. "You need to know the truth about Sarah." Intrigued yet wary, he couldn't ignore it. Curiosity overshadowed fear as he pressed further into this murky situation unfolding around him like smoke obscuring reality. A message hinted at potential lies regarding not only her pregnancy, but also aspects of her past life, previous relationships withheld from him entirely, and ignited an urgency within Jake to confront her directly despite knowing full well how delicate this dance was becoming between love and betrayal. Feeling adrenaline course through him like wildfire igniting dry grasslands underfoot, Jake decided it was time for confrontation, a reckoning where truth would have no choice but to emerge unscathed amidst tangled webs spun from deception upon deception, woven together by someone he'd trusted wholeheartedly until now. Jake took a deep breath, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him like a heavy blanket. He couldn't ignore the growing doubts anymore. He had to confront the truth. At evening, after much contemplation, he reached out to Mark. They needed to investigate together, to unearth whatever secrets lay hidden beneath Sarah's facade. The following day, Jake and Mark met at their usual cafe, a quiet spot where they could talk without being overheard. Over cups of coffee that grew cold as they spoke, Jake relayed all his concerns about Sarah, her odd behavior, the inconsistencies in her story. Ark listened intently before nodding thoughtfully. "You're not crazy for feeling this way," Mark assured him, leaning closer across the table. "We need to dig deeper." They devised a plan. Mark would contact one of Sarah's high school friends under the guise of wanting to reconnect. This friend might have insight into Sarah's past that could help them determine if her claims were genuine. Days passed slowly as Jake anxiously awaited updates from Mark. Each tick of the clock felt like an eternity, filled with dread and anticipation. Finally, when Mark called him one afternoon, Jake felt his heart race. "I've got something," Mark said briskly over the phone. "You told me some things about Sarah that you won't believe." Jake rushed over to Mark's apartment as quickly as he could manage. There, they huddled over his laptop while Mark recounted everything he had learned during their conversation with Sarah's friend. Apparently, Mark began cautiously, Sarah has been married before, a fact she never mentioned. And her ex wasn't just anyone, he was someone known for causing trouble. Jake's stomach churned at this revelation, a mixture of betrayal and disbelief washed over him like ice-cold water poured over hot coals. Wait," Jake interrupted anxiously as pieces began falling into place in his mind. "She lied about being married. What else is she lying about? Is she really pregnant?" Mark nodded gravely. Asked her friend specifically about that too. She didn't know anything for sure, but said it wouldn't be unusual for someone like Sarah to exaggerate or fabricate something like pregnancy for attention. That night was sleepless for Jake. Images flashed through his mind, moments spent with Sarah laughing and dreaming together, now felt tainted by suspicion and doubt. Determined not to let fear paralyze him any longer, Jake received an unexpected message from an unknown number later that week, a text offering cryptic information suggesting that Sarah might not even be pregnant at all. Enough to send chills racing down his spine. Fueled by adrenaline and anger towards the lies spun around him like barbed wire, tightening its grip on his freedom and happiness, he decided it was time for confrontation. He did directly after gathering evidence with careful precision alongside Mark. The initial shock in Sarah's eyes morphed into cold indifference as she attempted deflection tactics common among manipulators caught red-handed. "Think I'd lie?" She challenged defensively when confronted during their most intimate moment, yet turned bitterly fraught with tension. Jake steeled himself against her familiar charm while holding firm onto newfound resolve. It was no longer just about love. It was also about trust shattered beyond repair under layers upon layers of deceitful narratives woven throughout. Our relationship history. N? As emotions swirled around them, both anger mixing seamlessly with pain, Jake realized amidst everything else swirling within himself. He had only one choice left now: to expose her once and for all before further damage ensued. N? In the weeks that followed Jake's public revelation of Sarah's deceit, a sense of relief washed over him like a cleansing wave. A burden he had carried for so long, filled with doubt and confusion, began to lift as he reconnected with friends and family, those who had been sidelined during his relationship with Sarah. Emily became his confidante once more, always there to lend a listening ear or offer support when memories of betrayal threatened to cloud his thoughts. "I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself," she often reminded him, her eyes shining with sincerity. Jake felt a renewed sense of freedom. Each time they met, it was as if the chains Sarah had placed around him were finally breaking away. Ark remained steadfast by his side, too, helping him navigate through the emotional aftermath. They often met at their favorite cafe, recounting stories and sharing laughter that hadn't felt genuine in ages. "What needed to be done?" Mark would say between sips of coffee. "Sometimes people need to see the truth even when they don't want to." Jake nodded silently, grateful for such unwavering support amidst the chaos. Meanwhile, Sarah faced the consequences of her actions head-on. Social ostracism engulfed her life like an overwhelming tide. Former friends distanced themselves from her swiftly, as whispers spread throughout their community about her dishonesty. It's not only Jake, but also respect and connections that once defined her world, a heavy price to pay for manipulation. Days turned into weeks as rumors circulated about Sarah's past details, shared by those who once called her friend, now seemed like shards of glass prickling at her skin. It was during this turbulent time that Rachel approached Jake, unexpectedly, guilt written all over her face. "Jake, I'm so sorry," she started softly, tears glistening in her eyes. "Believe you before I thought you were just being paranoid." Jake felt a mix of emotions wash over him. Hurt mingled with understanding as he watched Rachel struggle with regret etched deep within her features. "It's okay," he replied gently. After everything that had happened, he realized holding on to resentment wouldn't help him heal. "And things since then," Rachel continued hesitantly. "About Sarah? Lies she told me too. I should have seen the signs." Her honesty opened a door to discussions once suppressed under layers of denial, not only regarding Sarah, but also concerning friendships fractured by manipulation and trust betrayed. Jake listened carefully as Rachel shared details, unearthing further deceptions tied back to their mutual acquaintances' connections, woven tightly within their social circle, until now twisted beyond recognition due to one person's choices. With every revelation brought forth by Rachel's courage came strength found within vulnerability, a collective realization among those affected by Sarah's behavior that no one should endure such toxic manipulation ever again. Finally free from toxic influences in his life, Jake set forth on a journey toward healing, a path illuminated by newfound clarity, where lessons learned would guide him forward, rather than trap him in darkness left behind by someone who took advantage of love, offered freely without question. Days turned into months post-revelation. Jake focused on rebuilding himself. Holy self-discovery became paramount while exploring passions previously buried under layers of obligation imposed upon him during his time with Sarah. He vowed never again would someone manipulate his trust or twist love into chains binding him against his. Well, the future looked bright ahead, filled not only with hope but also limitless possibilities waiting patiently just beyond reach. Until grasped firmly within hand, stretched wide open, ready for new experiences, yet untold, blossoming brightly across horizons unforeseen before now. Thus began Jake's journey towards reclaiming happiness, one step at a time, navigating through life empowered anew, armed with wisdom earned through hardships endured, ultimately leading toward freedom, found despite adversity faced along. Every turn taken down this unexpected road, forged from pain, transformed beautifully into resilience, echoing truths everlasting held deep within heart, reborn stronger than ever before, guided always forward, onwards, embracing whatever awaits. Next along this remarkable path, unfolding gracefully ahead beneath stars sparkling brightly overhead, illuminating all dreams chased fervently in pursuit, forever onward, unfazed, undeterred, stepping boldly toward destiny, awaiting patiently. Just beyond horizon, shimmering, softly, invitingly beckoning closer still.